Okay, we're back. Um, Let me go ahead and close the window, which I have, because that's where that little noise distortion that you hear, the shh in the background, is coming from. And I basically keep the window open because I get a better Wi-Fi connection that way. But for the sake of this video, I don't need to be connected to the internet right now. So let me go ahead and turn that down. And then let me slide on over here in the cut some and just use my voice because I don't know, sometimes you might not want to just look at my mug all the time, and shit, I'm that way with other people sometimes, unless her face is pretty. And well, that actually brings me to the subject that I'm going to talk about in this particular segment of the video, putting yourself first. Um, on the internet as well as in the world at large, it seems to be a pattern, I guess you would call it, where people seem more and more often interested in having you pay more attention to what they're talking about than to pay attention to what you're talking about or what you're thinking about, or just basically attention whoring, I guess, is the best fundamental way to put it if you're going to get the real spit. And that might work if individuals were each paying attention to themselves and not really dependent on attention from others, meaning you're serving your own needs. Similar to what I said, you don't necessarily know who's watching. I don't know if anybody's watching, but for me personally, I do know that I'm watching, and I tend to tune into myself because I happen to like me, and I get my answers from me, and my directions from me, and my guidance from me, and my mind tends to gravitate towards those who are most like me, who actually get their answers somewhat to varying degrees from their own self. But this type of thing about being obsessed with other people and their particular lives, I don't theoretically think that it's really possible for a person to concentrate on putting their own needs first if they're continuously bombarded with other people's thoughts and emotions, which is really what this internet is boiling down to from a scientific perspective. Just some words and pictures on the internet, on a computer screen or on a phone screen. And I'm going to open up some thorough studies in regards to that just to see if we can get to the bottom of it. But it represents a change in society, and I don't really see how we could be focused on our own needs. But that's the mystery of it, because over time, and this is what I really want to talk about, seems like when I or any person more and more might be focusing on their own best interest, might tend to lose some attention, might lose some response. Like on the business end, the numbers will drop. And I always find it a mystery because that would actually entail that in order to have a successful business on the internet or just in life in general, you need to put your own needs behind the needs of others that you're serving, which would eventually lead to a run out on the part of the provider. And then the folks just going to go somewhere else and have the needs served. And I believe what's going to happen and what's showing to happen right now is that there's going to be a slow up and people are going to start pulling back and following this application, which is to put their own self first and serving their own needs on top of that. And once we get to that, well, we're gonna see an influx of people who are dependent on other people for their needs. And putting your own needs first actually entails that you allow and encourage other people to put their own needs first, as opposed to saying I'm going to put my needs first and I want everybody else to put my needs first too. But that's kind of a long story that I would have to go to some kind of a corporate boardroom, and maybe that's why I got my tie and shirt on to prepare myself for that, because it really is showing up on the highest sectors of corporate business, especially with net businesses. Take, for example, Netflix, and yeah, the consumers, they really don't want to hear that, but the producers, looking at their own bottom line, might need to tighten up some, and well, that leads to a dissatisfaction and people jumping ship. But the interesting part is how the investors will also jump ship because it loses value, at which point the company is paying attention and focusing on their own best interests and the best interests of the company, as if the best interest of the company is how much they can give without receiving in return. And it's happening across the board, whether you have a Facebook or whether you have Twitter. Twitter actually went as far as its founders just letting Twitter do what it does, and starting up a whole new organization where they could focus on matters and see how to get this resolved, because people are looking at this and trying to figure out what is going on with so many people who look for other people to serve their needs before they put their own best interests. And I did a little post on Steve Jobs earlier, somewhat controversial, but that was just to drive that point home, and that's where this comes from. Or maybe the other way around, this is where that comes from. And it's basically on people who want to have it both ways. And the resolve of that really is going to show this natural law thing, which I guess is why it's based or pictured in a pyramid, and say that people focusing on their own needs and have the ability to serve their own needs will be somewhat more of the independent, where those who are dependent and putting their needs first are dependent on someone else to serve their needs. And well, I was talking to one of my people about the subject a couple years back, and he happens to be a pretty important dude. He's a doctor of psychology, Brother Fondu, and I was talking to him about my different takes and stances, and basically saying how I get concerned sometimes because I feel like I'm not necessarily able to save some people, and what can I do? And he said, "Nah, man, hell nah. Only God can save them. That's between them and God. You got to do what you got to do." And I've heard that various times throughout my life, but at some point in time, I think that has to be applied. And while I'm rambling on at the mouth, there is this dictionary definition. I've seen it a few times, dictionary.com, I believe it is, but I know this is the free dictionary online. And let me read this definition to you. Hold on a second. Okay, economy, free dictionary, / economy. Number 6, theology, the method of God's government and of activity within the world. Or theology, the method of God's government and the method of God's government of and activity within the world. Basically, it's a spiritual matter that's taking place with the economy that's making this imbalance happen. And once again, the experts do point to that pyramid as the only viable solution. And for some people, once again, it's good news. Other people, it's not. Let's see. Okay, there we go. We're back on. So dang, we already down at another 10 minutes. So let's see if we can wrap this up in one summation. Put your own needs first and pay attention to yourself first. And I would advise, just like I do, to take all the love and respect and admiration and dependency that you put on someone else and just swap out the picture and concentrate on you. And if you got to lose some to gain some, or if you really love yourself, well, that's what you'll need to do. But I'm practicing what I preach, so what you see is what you get. Once again, my name is Rylan Branch, and there we go. I am number, that one, add value again, and since my name is Branch, it's more or less a acorn to an acorn tree or oak tree type of application. Reap what you sow. You know a tree by its fruits, so on and so forth. It's the Branch Out Professional Network. So basically that's how we're going to keep it and see where it takes it, and keep the trust where it's supposed to be. One love.